Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Knights of the Round Cable, the video series where the Link Cable crew gets together to discuss pretty much anything gaming related, whether it be console games, PC games, and today we're talking about something that is neither. We're talking about Google Stadia, their streaming service slash next gen gaming platform that they're bringing in. So my name is Alex. I'll be your host for this discussion, and I'm joined by my brother Jacob.
Hello.
Hi. And today, we're going to be talking about Stadia. So for those who don't know, Stadia is Google's entry into the console, I say in quotes, race, because it's not really a console. There's no physical media to it or physical form to it other than the controller and whatever device you're using it on. So the way it works is that, or the way we think it works is that you pull a game from Google's cloud storage servers, the ether, essentially, and it will stream onto your device, whether that be your, I think it starts at the Pixel 3 and up level phone, onto your tablet, onto your TV or smart TV, or if you have a Chromecast, you'll be able to play it there, really any screen. But it's very hardware independent, so you don't need to have a gaming PC or a gaming rig to play a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one that they showed off. You could play it on your Pixel phone, a device that would not be able to run this game natively, obviously, in any universe. But yeah, so we're going to talk about Stadia. So Jacob, I'll ask you right away, are you excited for Stadia? Is this an idea that you think you are interested in?
Yeah, well, I mean, I am interested in Stadia. I think it does alleviate a certain, we'll say, different types of circumstances that people may be facing. I mean, instead of purchasing a very expensive computer or even a console to play a certain game, now you have this easy to access way to play basically in any way you want. And I think that is exciting. However, I do have worries in regards to how it will connect and how players will be able to interact with it on a daily basis, and essentially just avoiding, we'll say, just having the internet crashing on you, or even not having access to internet. How do you get to play those games? That is my biggest worry for it so far.
I think that's the biggest worry overall with Stadia is that how does it work?
Yeah, and I mean, they've shown a lot of it already, and I mean, it seems promising from what they've been able to show off so far, and just having these games run as well as they do. It's just that I don't think anybody's going to be able, unless in all perfect circumstances, they'll be able to achieve, we'll say, the perfect 4K resolution at all times for every of their games. And again, you have to have, we'll say, stable internet and have no stoppage. And for us in Canada, that's something that's not ready available unless you have, you live in somewhere where there's we'll say stronger internet connectivity, or you have a better service provider. But even now, there's a lot of places where the internet services aren't all too great, and people are still paying a fortune to have high-speed internet that's, again, not sufficient for Google Stadia. And a lot of people are going to be left out, and that sort of aspect.
Right. It does kind of beg the question, like, this Stadia is, everything we've heard from it is supposed to make things easier. It's no consoles, no upgrading your PC. Like, that's something I'm doing right now, and it's a pain. It's enjoyable, but it's also like, okay, what video card do I get? What motherboard do I get? Why? Like, how many years am I going to get out of this? What are the specs that are coming out of recommended for games, and like all that? It's complicated, and it's something that, after building multiple PCs every few years, it gets to the point where you're like, I do kind of look to that simplicity for some games. But then who is Stadia for? Because you're asking people in hyper-connected areas. Like you said, we're up here in Canada, and if you live outside of Montreal, Toronto, or Vancouver, the internet can't. The internet can be choppy. It really is based on your service provider in the area and kind of circumstances of that. And I like, if I am buying into Stadia, am I getting the promised experience no matter where I'm at? Google has said that you should. I think they said a 10 megabyte per second connection is the minimum that you should have. And I think that's fairly standard, but then what kind of experience are you getting out of that? You're not going to get that 4K high quality experience, but are you even getting something that works for most games? Like, remember, like you're going to be streaming these games, so the game is running in a data center somewhere, and you are pulling it from that data center to bring it over. So if something like a fighting game, let's say something like like Mortal Kombat 11 is coming to Stadia, we already know this. That's a game that's very dependent on having no input lag. As soon as you press a button, something happens on the screen. Especially if you're playing in multiplayer, if you're playing against someone, are you giving an advantage then to someone with a better internet connection? You're sharing the game. The game is being run from the same place, but it's now all of a sudden, because they have better internet, they have the advantage. Or can you not even play it? Like, can you not? If I wanted to play Mortal Kombat 11 against you, and let's say your internet was doing super great at the time, and my connection, for whatever reason, wasn't great, does that compromise Stadia in a way? And like some game styles, that doesn't really matter. RPGs doesn't really matter. Racing games, they kind of flub it a little bit. But like, there's a lot of games that have been announced for Stadia that are very precise games, very accurate games, like shooters. We've got Destiny 2 seems to be their big launch game that they're touting. That's an online shooter. That's a multiplayer shooter that is very challenging at some points. And how is that going to work over streaming? Like, if there's a degradation in the quality of the experience, it's really going to hurt that product. And my concern at this point is, let's say you buy into Stadia, you've got your subscription service paid, and you're good to go, and then you play it for a while, and you're like, this is just never going to work. I don't live in a place where I can support the requirements of this device or this service. Is that your fault? Is that now do you go to Google and say, hey, I'd like my money back, this isn't really what I was expecting? Do they say, oh, sorry, that's not really our problem. You should have had better internet. You should have lived in a different place. You should have had a better... And that kind of goes against the philosophy of Stadia, I think, because like you watch the commercials that come up and they're always like, oh, no wires, no connections, no consoles. It's like, okay, that's great. That sounds really nice. That sounds like the digital future done right, but will it work? Like, there's been no proof that this will work yet. And we just posted a written discussion over on linkcable.com where we talked about it, and my whole point is, like, I need to see this work. I need to see someone who can give me an impression that says, yes, Stadia works. It does work. It is as advertised. That will sell me on it. I'm on the fence. I will be honest. Like, I don't want to sound too negative on it. I'm on the fence about it. I do like the simplicity of it. I like the idea of saying, oh, I want to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but I just, you know what? I want to play it on the go. It sounds awful as an experience, but I want to play it on my Pixel 3, and I can take it outside and play away. That sounds nice, and then come home and just say, all right, put my phone away, gonna charge it because the battery's probably been drained completely at this point, and then just pick up where I left off on my either PC monitor or my smart TV. That sounds extremely convenient. That sounds almost too good to be true. And that's kind of my whole thing with Stadia, is that it doesn't sound realistic. It's too reliant on technology that we've only seen things like movies and TV stream successfully, and music obviously, but like less interactive forms of media, less high demanding forms of media. There's not, a movie isn't processing 3D graphics in real time at 4K. It's a video file that is playing from Netflix's servers. That is one thing. It's not equal to rendering Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And
Mhm.
obviously your device isn't the one rendering it, it's being rendered in Google servers wherever they are, and that has to travel over the internet to your device, and there has to be no latency between the buttons I'm pressing on my controller and what's on the screen. I don't see like the I don't think the internet's infrastructure is set up for this. Even if we're talking about a big center, if you're in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago, the biggest cities on earth essentially, um, I don't see that as possible. I for how, and I mean we're at the cusp of the actual next generation of gaming. I mean, PlayStation 5 is coming, Xbox Scarlet is coming, and that's going to bring on the next wave of games, right? Like these are going to be bigger games, more intense games that with higher demands. We've already had some people saying like games like, you know, you look at Cyberpunk or you look at Death Stranding, and you're like, oh, those games are really going to be pushing those like Xbox Ones and PlayStation 4s. Like you probably should get a Pro or an X to make sure you get the best experience on it. And now you're telling me we're going to be streaming these games, and like we haven't seen a proper next gen game yet, and you're going to tell me that can stream onto your phone with no latency? Like I don't buy it. I don't see that. I need to. And Google hasn't done. I mean, they've shown it. They've shown people playing Stadia, and I'm watching this and I'm like, yes, but like this isn't a real live demonstration. This is at your very kind of manicured press event where I'm sure you have the power of the sun powering your internet right now. You are absolutely going to make sure this thing works for your public demonstration. But I want to see a real life test of this. I want to see someone out in the wild, you know, playing a game like I'll use a different example, like Doom Eternal on their Pixel 3. I want to see that happen. I want to see someone like maybe that could be like their marketing strategy is like, hey, I'm Bill. I'm walking around. I'm playing Doom Eternal on the subway on my phone. Like that could be cool. Like that. Okay, that shows me that this works in places that aren't directly plugged into the cloud, right? And that's my biggest thing with Stadia. I think overall is that I don't. They haven't proven to me that this technology will work. And I know Microsoft's doing a similar thing with xCloud, where that'll be their cloud-based streaming service. And I read a few hands-on impressions of that, and a lot of people have said, like, yeah, like it works okay, it's fine. And I mean, we're not going to be talking about xCloud too much, but like if Microsoft, a company that's they might be the biggest tech company in the world right now, can only get an okay service, like that doesn't fill me with confidence for anyone doing this on the scale that Google's talking about. So I guess that's my knee-jerk reaction. I definitely do want it to be good. I definitely see promise in the idea. I think it's too early for it. I think we're like 5 years away from this being a viable way to play the majority of your games. So that's kind of my take on it. I didn't want to ask though. Let's pull the negativity aside and imagine it works. Imagine it works flawlessly. It comes out, and Google did it. They fixed streaming. It works. So, what do you want out of it? What do you want out of this platform when you're comparing it to a PS4, an Xbox One, a Switch, a PC? What do you want Stadia? What do you want Stadia to become? Is the question I want to ask.
Well, at this point, it would have to be a replacement for. I wouldn't say like we'll say the Nintendos, the Sonys, and the Microsofts, but I think it would be a replacement to PC gaming as a whole at this point. I mean, just being able to have that, you know, the freedom of playing wherever you want, how you want, and again, like I think Stadia is mostly for people who don't have access to, we'll say, like one or multiple devices. And if it does work, and if it works really well, I mean, then I think it would essentially try to go ahead and replace PC gaming. And I know there's a lot of people who would definitely disagree with that. But I mean, what's more appealing is we'll say purchasing a game or a monthly subscription or whatever it is in comparison to thousands of dollars of parts that you have to we'll say just change up every few years.
I mean,
It's
there is the enthusiast crowd that builds PCs and enjoys that.
Mhm.
And I've been there. I've done that. I've built PCs. I enjoy it. I don't think it's a bad hobby, but it's definitely like a niche hobby. Like most people just want to play the game. Like,
yeah.
so I think that's, you're never going to convince those people, and that's fine. Like, absolutely, like, more power to you. I absolutely am in love with the PC gaming scene. I love talking about building PCs and like kind of like working parts into it. But sometimes you just want to play the game. You just want to play the stupid game.
Yeah. And the other thing is, in terms of, we'll say, like, again, it won't replace PC gaming and it won't replace console gaming, but I think it will allow like a whole new, we'll say, demographic of people to enjoy video games. And we've seen that like that type of turnaround with the Wii back in the day, where it was the design of the Wii was very simple and it was very straightforward, and people got it right away, and it got different crowds to enjoy it. And I think Stadia has the opportunity of doing that as well in their own unique way of just being, you can play wherever you want, however you want, whether it's on your cell phone, whether it's on your PC, on your tablet, you know. And if you have access to Google Stadia, and let's say you have younger children, they can play whatever they want, and then later on you can play whatever you want in a different room or wherever the case might be. It just opens up many doors and many new aspects of gaming that we haven't had seen be part of, you know, the culture itself. And I think it's very exciting to see like a company like Google and Microsoft taking a big step forward and trying to make this streaming service as accessible as it is to everybody.
Right.
But again, I do have to agree with your sentiment in terms of, will it, the promise is there. You know, Google seems to think that everything is going to work smoothly on day one, but is the promise of having the best experience for every game going to be available?
Right.
And I think, again, that's always a lingering concern until we get to see it at this point.
Right. I do think that where I think Stadia is going, and where I kind of see it falling into after like a little while, is you kind of look at TV and movie streaming services right now. You got your Netflix, you got your Hulu, your Amazon, your Crave, your whatever. They're all kind of pulling their own content together and basically asking you to choose what content is interesting to you. And I kind of see PC gaming, and like I'm grouping Stadia into PC gaming because it is kind of like a subset of that. Like, it's not like the PC gaming platform, but it is kind of like PC gaming is starting to split off into its little branches. For years it was just Steam. Like, Steam was PC gaming. There was the idea of anything else. You were probably like, oh, like what? You buy your World of Warcraft expansion at the store, and that was it. That was PC gaming for a lot of people. And then you're starting to see these other stores pop up. We had Origin from EA. We have Uplay, and now Uplay Plus with Ubisoft. And obviously the Epic Game Store is growing very, very quickly. And I almost see PC gaming becoming it'll look like the TV streaming side of things, where you have all these stores. You turn on your computer and you have, you know, Battle.net, Steam, the Xbox Store, Stadia, Uplay. You have all of that, and then you choose. You only have access to certain games on certain platforms, and I think Stadia will eventually get there. I don't think that's where they're going at for their launch. They're obviously pulling in all these big third parties. Ubisoft seems very interested in it. I will say, side note, Ubisoft is always interested when a new system launches, like a new platform launches. Ubisoft supports the heck out of things on day one. It's whether they support it further down the road. That's the big question. But I think as Google Stadia grows and you have competition from xCloud, you're going to have to start, and then possibly other streaming services. Like this technology exists. I mean, we've heard rumors of Disney maybe even getting into this because they own pretty much every property on Earth, but they have the capacity to build a streaming service. Amazon is another company that could easily do this. They already have a streaming service. Apple is one as well, where you have all these companies that could start making their own streaming services, and then you have to say, well, where's the content I'm interested in? Mm-hmm. I think that's the future of Stadia. I kind of see Stadia as Netflix 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, however, before other companies started taking their content back. So it's going to be it's very disruptive, I think, as a force. Like, Google walked in, we've had companies say, oh, we had, what were they called? OnLive. Years ago that promised exactly this, streaming PC gaming, and it just flopped. It flopped out of the box because it didn't work. And but they never pretended to be Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo. They never pretended to be one of the big gaming companies. And Google is, from day one, we are here and we are going to be part of this industry with Stadia. Like they're doing their Stadia. Their version of Nintendo Directs, Stadia Connects. So they're doing those, and they're talking about the games that are coming to Stadia. And they're not getting, they're getting every type of game, but they are getting heavy hitters too. Like Destiny 2 is a big game. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a big game. Doom Eternal is a big game. Like, they're getting these titles. It's whether or not they get them early, I would say, is one thing. Like, all those games that I just mentioned are late ports. Actually, I think Doom Eternal is a launch title for Stadia. It's coming out around that time. But I think it really depends on if Stadia gets those games early enough and whether the experience is comparable. Like, if you get your Stadia subscription, it's not expensive. Like, it's I think it's like less than $20 a month for Stadia. And you can buy games. Like, you can buy games to own in your library, or you pay your subscription to have access to them on a kind of renewing basis. You might be able to play some of these games for not a lot of money. You could save cash doing this. And I think that's very interesting. I think opening up AAA gaming to people on a budget is a fantastic idea. But it all comes back to the same thing. Will it work? Because if you could be $5 a month. If it doesn't work, no one's going to pay for it. Like, no one's going to bother with it. So I do think Stadia will grow into something other than what is being advertised at currently. I think it will kind of fall in line with these online stores as it be. One other thing I did want to talk about and kind of bring up when it comes to Stadia is how they explained YouTube would work into it and actually streaming your games that you're playing. Because my understanding is that, let's say you're watching a YouTube trailer. It's E3 and Elder Scrolls 6 you're watching that trailer. And then you get a little pop-up that says, you can play the demo now on Stadia. That's a great idea. Like, that is cool. That is, like, we've talked a bit before about how do companies bring E3 home to people, and that's the ultimate way to do it. Like, some places will do, like, oh, you can download a demo right now onto your PlayStation, or go to Best Buy and play a game. But to be able to be watching the trailer, like, wow, that looks really cool, and press a button, and all of a sudden you're playing the E3 demo, that could be really cool. And then once that game is out, obviously you can be watching your favorite YouTuber playing the game, and then say, wow, like, they're at a really cool part of the game. I want to play this part. You press a button, the cloud creates a save state for you that matches the streamer, and then you're playing. You're at that point in the game. Let's say you want to, like, let's say you don't want to muddle through all of Final Fantasy 15. You just want to go up against the last boss. That's all you want to do. Just find a stream of someone playing it, press a button, and then boom, you're against the last boss. That is futuristic to me. That is unheard of levels of game manipulation. I think it's really cool. I think it's a great idea. So I guess I wanted to get your thoughts. What do you think of that YouTube integration into Stadia?
No, I just think it's very exciting. I mean, again, you get to experience the game the way you want to. You don't have to muddle through the entire, we'll say, the entire game to get to the point where you want to play. If you want to essentially play the same type of game that your favorite streamer or we'll say your friends are playing, then you can all essentially start at the same point. And then there's definitely going to be many more interactions with YouTube I can see as well, being thrown to Stadia, which again, it's going to be, I think it's going to really change the way that people are going to play video games, especially on this specific streaming service. One little thing, however, I did notice that for Google Stadia is essentially it's not just a paid service. You can pay the games, but then there's also like a pro tier where you can pay a monthly service for a larger range of it seems to be higher rates of larger resolutions and offer free games to your library at that point. But yeah, just going back quickly to the YouTube portion of it all, I think it's going to be extremely excited for, especially for people, especially a younger generation who seems to have loved how people have been streaming games so far, and just to be able to quickly go ahead and jump into the action into what games that their favorite streamers are playing. Then I think again that allows so many different possibilities to play and experience games. And
Ninja won't be there though because he's a Mixer exclusive now, so he's going to be on XCloud.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that all turns out at the end. But
is it going to turn into like we're both big hockey fans? Are we going to have like free agency season for game streamers, or is there going to be like a contract disputes and trades and everything for streamers? It's just what a world! What a world that would be.
You know, we're joking about it now, but thinking about it down the line, it's probably going to be something that we're going to have to going to read through every day, where it's this person's taking their talents to Google Stadia to be a professional streamer, or vice versa. And gaming in general has just skyrocketed into something far larger than I think anybody would have imagined maybe 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think Stadia, again, it's a step in the right direction for just building this new type of experience where how people can interact with gaming itself. And again, we're joking about it now, but in the future, maybe that's exactly what we're going to be watching on the TSN version of esports on our Google Stadias or whatever it is at that point. But one thing I wanted to bring up, because you kept on mentioning games, but just quickly taking a look at the games themselves that are coming to Stadia. Some of them haven't been released, and some of them are definitely big games. Cyberpunk 2077, Borderlands 3. Again, they've highlighted Assassin's Creed Odyssey multiple times, but there seems to be a lack of, we'll say, surprises. And I don't, because I mean, they can't really show off these new games that other companies are working on at this point, but at the same time, it only has just 3 exclusives so far that are built for Stadia, and a bunch of these games have already been previously offered experiences. And I'm wondering if that's going to impact in terms of what type of crowd it's going to try to cater to, because I mean, again, I see many games that are, again, very interesting and definitely worth playing. It's just that if you've already played them on, we'll say, your Xbox One or your Nintendo Switch or even your PC, would you buy Stadia just so that you can experience these games again? And I think there's a bit of I think it's just missing that. It's just missing new new games at this point, and new titles that are exclusive to Stadia to make it stand out from, we'll say, the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch at this point.
I think part of the problem with that right now, and it's a timing issue. Like I said earlier, we are at the cusp of the next generation. The next generation is a year away. A year from today, the Xbox Scarlet is 2 months away. We already have that thing's release date. It's in November. So, like you said, every third-party companies, which Google is going to be the ones pulling in from, they don't want to show these games yet. It's not time to show Scarlet games or PS5 games or just next-gen games in general. It's not time yet. Those will get revealed after the current cycle of games is on its way out, right? So after after Cyberpunk, after Final Fantasy VII Remake, after like those really big anticipated games are out, then we're going to start hearing about it probably around E3 2020. So now you have Stadia as a platform launching in November 2019, and I think a lot of the games that are going to be coming to Stadia haven't been announced yet. I think Google wanted... You know what? Thinking about it and talking through it, I think what this might be is a public beta test. Is get Stadia out in November. There's games that are... I don't want to say they're lower end games. These are high class AAA games, but some of them are a bit older. Get them out, work out the bugs, and then as the PS5 games start coming out, as the Scarlet games start coming out, you start rolling these games out for those systems, for Stadia as well. That might be where their angle is that, hey, we can get it out now, we have decent support, we have games like Destiny 2, we've got Assassin's Creed Odyssey, blah, 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 all these games, and we can start kind of seeing where we are before we start saying, yes, this can run Final Fantasy 16. Like, let's say that's a launch title for the PS5. Yes, this can run that, and then it doesn't. It falls flat. Also, if Stadia were releasing in November 2020, it would then be suddenly competing with Scarlet and very likely PlayStation 5. And as a new entry into the kind of the gaming business, I think that would be poisonous for them to try. The PlayStation and Xbox names mean something to people. Stadia does not yet. Stadia has to build up that reputation, and I think launching it in a year before those systems makes a lot of sense because it's building that reputation during that time. And if it has a good solid launch, people might say, hey, wow, like Final Fantasy 16 is coming out and I think I'll get it on Stadia because it works. I know it will work. I think Stadia, will eventually get more exclusive games. I think right now it's just that no one is ready to announce anything because it's not the time to announce them. And we've seen this before too. When a new platform with a new concept is released, a lot of companies, third-party companies, tend to take a wait-and-see approach to it. Not Ubisoft. Ubisoft will support anything, but I think a lot of companies will take a wait-and-see approach with it. Like, they don't want... Like, if I'm EA, for example, I don't want to put my biggest, brightest name on the Stadia and have it just look miserable and be an awful game that everyone makes fun of, right? So why not hold off and say, hey, we're going to put Jedi Fallen Order on it after we know this works. But that also begs the other question, is that a company like EA has a service. They have Origin. Will Origin become a streaming service down the road? I guess time will tell. We have no idea. But it is as the, if this technology catches on, and it definitely did for movies, it definitely did for music, I don't see why it won't catch on for gaming. Gaming is not movies. It's there's processing behind this, right? It's streaming a movie in 4K is easy. It's a file you're playing. Streaming a game in 4K with live inputs, not the same thing. So we'll see. I think there's definitely going to be a wait and see approach. And the first year of Stadia, so from November 2019 to November 2020, is critical. Like, that's make or break for the system or for the platform. Like, it's if it has a bad year, that trust in, because people don't, by and large, aren't sold on it yet. I'm seeing a lot of people who are like, well, we'll wait and see. And that's exactly my position on it too. But like, I haven't seen a lot of people run out and pre-order these things, and I've seen the Founders Edition specifically. And part of the problem is they're bundling it with Destiny 2, which is a game everyone who wanted to play it has already played. But I think there's a lot of wait and see to it. I think there's a lot of people who want to make sure that this works before they decide to invest their time and energy into it and money. And Google's got to knock it out of the park, because if there's any hiccups, if there's anything like from day one, there's reports that like, it's just not work. Well, maybe not day one, but like the first week or the first month, it's not working. It's laggy. Games don't really work. It's you're lucky if you get 1080p. I think that's people are going to be like, well, that didn't work, and just kind of like move on. And I mean, what does that mean for xCloud then? Because I don't like Microsoft has been very mum on xCloud, but it's coming. They've mentioned it a few times. And what if Stadia bombs and it's awful and it's just the worst thing since OnLive? How if you're Microsoft, how do you then convince people that but we're doing it right? Right? Like it's very interesting. And I mean, this next generation that we're getting into here, a lot of people that I've seen give their kind of like their thoughts and like predictions and things kind of see it as the last physical generation. Like physical media as the main way to consume your games is probably going to start falling off in this next. I mean, we're already seeing it now. You're seeing a lot of games, especially on the Nintendo Switch right now, but you're seeing a lot of games that release, they're just a box and inside is a download code. And I mean, that's very nice to put on your shelf, I guess, if you want that, but you're not owning anything. As soon as the servers for Overwatch on the Switch go down and Blizzard says, you know what, it was a good run, we're shutting down Overwatch, you can't play that anymore. You just have a box on your shelf that says you bought that box. So it's very interesting. It's going to be a very interesting generation. I think Google definitely can make Stadia a hit. They definitely have the money and the know-how to make it work. It's just, will it actually work with the rest of the infrastructure that exists? It's not, because we're not just talking about Google making this work. You're talking about the ISPs need to make this work. You're talking about just kind of developers making games that can accommodate for input lag, in a fast-paced online way. So it's very unique as a platform where there's multiple stakeholders in its kind of infrastructure. So it'll be very interesting. I think that's everything I had to really mention on Stadia. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up this conversation?
Well, again, just the games in general. Again, and I get the point where it's many of these games are just not as a test pilot, but just to have these big games on Stadia for the first year, it's great. It's just that I will hope that with the next time that Google decides to show off Stadia, that they have a bit more, we'll say, first party. We're 2 months away, and every platform has a face, and I think that's what Google Stadia needs at this point. It's just maybe they can break the T-Rex game, whenever you don't have internet as their mascot for Google Stadia. But
that's what if your Stadia crashes and you lose internet, you get to play the Google Chrome T-Rex game.
Well, there you go.
There you go. It's perfect. Game of the year.
Yeah. But I think it just needs to have a face for the platform, and I'm sure they'll show it eventually. It's just at this point, it's been quite a while that we know that Stadia is coming, and there's no recognizable game that makes you want to get Stadia. Like I want to play on Stadia, and there's games I want to be able to experience on Stadia, but there's no game I'm dead set on playing on Stadia because I can put the two of them together. I can't say that Borderlands 3 and Stadia, that goes together. Like it's not like it's not Mario and Nintendo. That goes together. It's missing that little portion of it, and hopefully that within the next few weeks or even month, that we get their first look at maybe a mascot or even like we'll say a original IP from Google being the face of Stadia, and I think that will will kind of help out in carrying over and seeing how Stadia go, how it essentially works, and how all the other games coincide with their own IPs and own projects. That's my final thought on it. Just seeing how if they are planning on even making a first party title or even a first party franchise for Stadia to coincide with the other games that they're launching.
I don't know if a mascot is necessarily necessary anymore, but I get what you're saying, where it's there has to be that game that's like, that is why I want Stadia. And I mean, it's not Destiny 2. They might want it to be, but it's not Destiny 2. I know at E3 they talked a lot about Baldur's Gate 3, but that's not coming out in November. Like, it's not a launch game. It's not it's not anytime soon. So I guess I wasn't going to do predictions, but I just thought of one, and I guess I just want to put it out there so that if it does come true, I mean, for the Nintendo Direct, I got Xenoblade Chronicles right, so maybe I'll go 2 for 2. So I guess I have a Stadia prediction. Red Dead Redemption 2 Stadia exclusive for 1 year as its PC release.
Oh, that's exciting.
I
could see that.
I'm surprised it's not on PC yet. Like, it makes zero sense to me that it's not. It's an amazing game. It should be on PC eventually. I mean, like, I understand the console exclusivity and all that, but yeah, it's gonna if it's PC release. Red Dead Redemption 2's PC release is going to be Stadia exclusive for a year, and then it'll go to other places, like Steam or the Epic Game Store. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm probably wrong. I mean, I get lucky from time to time, but I'm probably wrong about that. All right. Well, that does it for our discussion today, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe, ring the bell, get notified however you would like. We do this every Saturday, so next week we'll be back with another discussion. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.